Human refused to drop alien girl during bombing, lost arm but saved. Sci-Fi HFY Story. The sky over the frontier city broke apart without warning. One moment it was gray and quiet, filled with smoke from factories and transport lanes. The next moment it burned with falling light. Enemy ships appeared above the clouds, dark shapes cutting through the air, and then the bombs began to fall. Sirens screamed across the city. Buildings shook as the ground trembled. Streets filled with running people, human and alien alike, all trying to escape the fire raining from the sky. The city had always been a place where many species lived together, not in peace, but in careful balance. Now that balance was gone. Evan was already running when the first explosion hit. He was part of a human rescue unit, trained to move fast and follow orders without question. His armor was scarred from past missions, his helmet cracked at the edge, but his legs moved without slowing. Around him, his team spread out, scanning for survivors and guiding them toward evacuation zones. A voice echoed in his helmet. Command was shouting orders, sharp and clear. All units were told to pull back. The enemy was too strong. The bombing was not stopping. Priority was human personnel only. Non-human civilians were not to be recovered. Evan clenched his jaw but did not answer. He had heard orders like this before. He understood why they were given. Transport space was limited. Time was short. Every second mattered. Another explosion hit close by. The shockwave threw Evan against a broken wall. Dust filled the air, thick and choking. He pushed himself up, coughing, and checked his scanner. Life signs flickered across the display. Most were fading fast. He was about to turn back when he saw one signal still strong, buried beneath collapsed stone and metal. It was small, too small to be an adult. Evan hesitated. Command repeated the order to retreat. Enemy fighters were moving lower now, hunting anything that still moved. He moved anyway. The rubble was hot to the touch. Flames crawled along broken pipes. Evan used his remaining strength to pull away chunks of concrete. Beneath it, he found her. The alien girl was pressed against the ground, her body pinned by a fallen beam. Her skin shimmered faintly, changing color with each shallow breath. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and pain. She made no sound, but light pulsed across her skin in uneven waves. Evan did not know her species well. They were rare, quiet, and often kept to themselves. He only knew they were fragile, especially the young. Another explosion shook the street. The beam shifted, crushing deeper into her side. Evan acted without thinking. He wedged his shoulder under the beam and pushed. Pain tore through his back, but the beam lifted just enough. He grabbed the girl and pulled her free. The moment she was loose, he wrapped her in his arms and turned away from the wreckage. Command shouted again. Evan's helmet filled with warnings and threats. He ignored them all. He ran. The streets were chaos. Fires blocked some paths. Others were filled with falling debris. Evan changed direction again and again, keeping low, shielding the girl with his own body. Her light flickered faster now, bright flashes of panic and pain. He spoke to her even though he did not know if she understood. His voice was calm, slow, steady. He told her to hold on. He told her they would get out. A transport craft roared overhead, taking off with the last group of evacuees. Evan reached the landing zone just in time to see it disappear into smoke and fire. The ground shook violently. A bomb hit close, tearing open the street behind him. He was thrown forward, sliding across broken stone. He rolled and came up on one knee, still holding the girl. His scanner screamed. Enemy units were closing in. There was only one option left. A secondary evacuation route, old and damaged, leading to a small launch platform near the river. It was not safe. It might already be destroyed. Evan ran toward it anyway. As he crossed an open stretch of ground, the air screamed. Something struck him from the side with terrible force. He was lifted off his feet and slammed into a wall. Pain exploded through his arm, sharp and blinding. He cried out despite himself. His grip loosened for a moment. The alien girl slipped from his arms and hit the ground hard. Command's voice cut through the noise. "Drop her. Leave her. Save yourself." Evan looked at the girl. She lay still, her light dim and fading. Blood ran down his arm, soaking his glove. He could not feel his fingers. Another bomb fell nearby. The wall behind him collapsed. Evan moved. He ignored the pain. He ignored the orders. He bent down and lifted the girl again, cradling her with his good arm. His injured arm hung uselessly at his side, shattered and broken. Each step was agony. His vision blurred at the edges. The heat from nearby fires burned his skin. Still, he walked, then ran, then staggered forward. The launch platform came into view at last. It was damaged but intact. A small evacuation craft sat on the pad, engines warming, its pilot shouting for anyone left behind. Enemy fire tore into the area. Explosions rocked the platform. Evan ran harder, teeth clenched, breath ragged. He reached the craft just as another blast hit. The world turned white. When Evan opened his eyes, everything was quiet, too quiet. Smoke drifted through the air. The launch platform was gone. The evacuation craft lay in pieces across the ground. Evan lay on his back, staring at the broken sky. His arm was gone below the shoulder, torn away by the blast. Pain came in slow waves, distant but deep. He turned his head. The alien girl lay beside him, alive. Her light glowed faintly, steady now. She looked at him, her eyes filled with something new. Enemy ships still filled the sky. The city burned. Evan smiled weakly, then closed his eyes, holding on to consciousness as long as he could. Above them, the bombing continued. Evan woke to pain and darkness. At first, he did not know where he was or how much time had passed. His body felt heavy, like it was sinking into the ground. The air smelled of smoke and burned metal. Distant explosions still echoed, but they felt far away, like thunder beyond a storm. He tried to move and failed. A sharp wave of pain rolled through him, pulling a low sound from his throat. His thoughts came slowly, one by one. He remembered the bombing, the run through fire. The girl, he turned his head with great effort. She was there. The alien girl lay close to him, partly shielded by a fallen slab of stone. Her skin glowed softly, a calm blue-green light that rose and fell like breathing. She was alive. The sight gave Evan a small anchor, something to hold on to as the pain returned stronger. He tried to lift his arm and felt nothing. Panic rushed in, fast and sharp. He looked down at his body. Where his left arm should have been, there was only torn armor, burned cloth, and dark blood dried along the edge. The arm was gone. Evan closed his eyes. For a moment, the world narrowed to pain and loss. Training told him to assess the wound, to stop the bleeding, to stay conscious. But another part of him, a quieter part, just lay there, breathing, trying not to scream. A sound pulled him back. A soft clicking noise, gentle and uneven. He opened his eyes again. The alien girl was awake. She had pulled herself closer to him. Her glowing skin shifted color as she moved, slow and careful. When she looked at him, the light changed again, forming soft patterns that moved across her chest and arms. Evan did not understand the patterns, but he felt something in them. Fear, concern, maybe gratitude. He swallowed and spoke, his voice weak and dry. He told her to stay still. He told her everything would be fine, even though he did not believe it himself. The city around them groaned. Somewhere nearby, a building collapsed with a deep, rolling crash. Dust fell like ash. Enemy ships still ruled the sky, their shadows passing overhead. Evan forced himself to move. Using his remaining arm, he dragged his body closer to cover. Each movement sent fire through his shoulder and chest. He pressed his back against the stone, then used his teeth and good hand to pull a small medical pack from his belt. His fingers shook as he worked. He sealed the wound as best he could, using foam and pressure. The pain was constant now, but distant, like it belonged to someone else. He checked his scanner. Very few life signs remained. The alien girl watched him closely. Her light pulsed faster when he groaned, slower when he rested. At one point she reached out and touched his armor with thin fingers. The glow around her hand brightened, then spread. Warmth flowed through Evan's chest. Not healing, not fully, but steadying. Enough to keep him awake. He stared at her, shocked. She pulled her hand back quickly, as if afraid. Enemy voices crackled through broken speakers nearby. Footsteps echoed among the ruins. They were searching the area. Evan knew they could not stay. He pushed himself up, ignoring the darkness pressing at the edge of his vision. He leaned against the stone and stood, swaying. The girl rose as well, unsteady but determined. She was smaller than he first thought, lighter, fragile. He shook his head. He could not carry her now, not like before. The enemy voices grew louder. Evan looked around and spotted a maintenance tunnel half buried under debris. The entrance was narrow, dark, and cracked, but it led underground. He pointed. The girl seemed to understand. She moved ahead, slipping into the opening. Evan followed, squeezing through, scraping armor and skin against stone. Inside, the air was cooler. The tunnel sloped downward, away from the fire and noise above. The sounds of bombing became dull and distant. They moved slowly, stopping often. Evan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Blood loss made the tunnel tilt and blur. At one point he collapsed to his knees. The alien girl turned back. Her light flared bright, then changed into a pattern Evan had not seen before. She placed both hands against his chest. This time the warmth was stronger. Images flooded Evan's mind. Not words, but feelings. A mother, pain, fear, a promise. He gasped and pulled back, stunned. The girl stepped away, clearly exhausted. Her light dimmed again. Evan understood one thing clearly: she needed him alive. They reached a wider chamber deep underground. Old equipment lined the walls, covered in dust. In the center stood a sealed door marked with symbols Evan did not recognize. The girl stopped. Her light changed, slow and steady. She approached the door and pressed her palm against it. Nothing happened. She tried again, her glow brightening with effort. The symbols flickered faintly, then went dark. Enemy scanners swept the tunnels above. Evan could hear the hum through the stone. He moved forward and placed his hand over hers. The door reacted. The symbols lit fully, casting soft light across the chamber. The ground trembled, not from bombs, but from something waking beneath the city. The door opened. Cold air rushed out, carrying a deep, ancient sound that felt older than the city itself. Inside was a chamber filled with smooth metal and silent machines. The girl stepped inside, her light now calm and bright. Evan followed, every instinct screaming that this place was not meant for him. Behind them, the door began to close. Enemy voices shouted nearby. The door sealed shut. The chamber lights came alive, one by one. And far above, unseen by any living eye, something ancient turned its attention toward the burning city. The chamber felt too quiet. The bombing sounds faded until they were only a low vibration in the walls. The air was cold and clean, unlike the smoke-filled tunnels outside. Evan stood just inside the doorway, breathing hard, his back pressed against smooth metal that felt almost warm. Soft light spread across the room in slow waves. The walls were curved, without sharp corners, and covered in faint lines that shifted as if they were alive. Machines rested in the floor and ceiling, silent but watching. The alien girl stepped farther in. Her skin glowed brighter here, the colors clear and steady. She did not look afraid. She looked like someone who had come home. Evan took a few careful steps forward. His legs shook with every movement. Blood loss made the room tilt, and he had to stop and lean against a pillar that rose from the floor like smooth stone. He tried his radio again. Only static answered him. The girl turned toward him. Light moved across her arms and chest, slow and calm. She raised one hand and pointed toward a low platform in the center of the chamber. Evan followed her gesture. The platform was empty, but the surface shimmered faintly. He shook his head and spoke softly. He told her he could not move much more. He told her she needed to rest. She did not answer with sound. Instead, she walked closer to him and touched his armor again. The warmth returned. This time, Evan did not fight it. Images flowed into his mind, clearer than before. A city not like his own, tall and bright, filled with beings made of light and flesh. He felt their fear as war came from the sky. He felt them building shelters deep underground, hiding knowledge they believed the universe was not ready to use. Then he felt judgment. Species rising and falling, some reaching too fast, using power to destroy instead of protect. The builders turning away, locking their creations behind rules and silence. The feeling shifted, a small figure hiding, a mother holding her close, running, loss. Evan gasped and pulled back, his heart racing. He looked at the girl with new eyes. She swayed on her feet, clearly drained. Her glow dimmed and flickered. He caught her before she fell. Holding her with one arm was difficult, but he managed, lowering himself carefully to the floor. He leaned back against the pillar, keeping her close. Footsteps echoed faintly above them. Enemy units were moving across the ruins. Their machines scanned the ground, searching for hidden spaces. Evan knew it was only a matter of time. The machines in the chamber reacted to the noise above. Lights brightened. Lines along the walls moved faster. A low hum filled the air, deep and steady. The platform in the center of the room rose slowly. The girl stirred and looked toward it. Her light shifted into focused patterns, sharp and clear. She slipped from Evan's grasp and walked to the platform, placing both hands on its surface. The hum grew louder. Symbols appeared in the air, glowing softly. Evan did not understand them, but he felt their weight. This was not just technology, it was a test. A voice filled the chamber. It was not spoken aloud, but it was clear inside Evan's mind. Calm, old, watching. It asked questions without words. Why do you protect the weak? Why do you stay when escape is possible? Why do you choose pain for another's life? Evan did not know how to answer. He did not try to explain. He only thought of the moment he had lifted the girl from the rubble. Of the order to leave her behind. Of the simple truth that he could not do it. The chamber seemed to pause. Above them, the enemy scanners stopped. The girl turned and looked at Evan. Her light softened, surrounding him gently. The voice spoke again. This one chose without reward. This one chose without hope of survival. This one chose for another. The platform flared with light. Evan felt something change, not inside his body but around him, as if the room itself had shifted its attention fully onto him. The pain in his shoulder dulled slightly. The dizziness eased just enough for him to breathe clearly. Outside, the city shook. Enemy ships lost formation. Some drifted. Others went dark, falling from the sky in burning arcs. The machines beneath the city were waking. Evan staggered to his feet as the chamber opened wider, revealing paths leading deeper underground. Screens formed in the air, showing the city above. Defense systems long buried were rising, not as weapons of destruction, but as shields. Energy fields spread across streets and shelters. Bombs struck them and faded into light. The girl stood taller now, her glow strong again. But Evan saw the cost. She trembled with effort. Sweat-like moisture formed along her skin. This power was not meant to be used alone. Enemy voices screamed through the stone as panic spread among them. Their control was slipping. A new presence entered the chamber. A human. A soldier named Merc stepped through a side passage, weapon raised. His armor was damaged, his face covered in soot and blood. He froze when he saw Evan. "You're alive," Merc said, disbelief heavy in his voice. Evan nodded weakly. Merc's eyes moved to the girl, then to the glowing machines. Understanding dawned slowly. "They're coming," Merc said. "A full unit, we don't have much time." The voice spoke again, heard by all three. "Access requires protection." Merc did not hesitate. He turned and moved back toward the tunnel, planting himself between the chamber and the approaching enemy. He checked his weapon, then looked back at Evan. "Make it count," he said. The enemy arrived moments later. The tunnel shook with gunfire and explosions. Merc fought alone, holding the narrow passage. The sounds were loud, violent, desperate. Evan watched the screens as enemy units fell back, blocked by rising barriers above. The city was changing. A final explosion echoed through the tunnel. Silence followed. The chamber lights dimmed slightly. The voice spoke once more, protection acknowledged. Evan felt the weight of loss settle in his chest. Merc was gone. The girl stepped closer to Evan. She reached up and placed her glowing hand against his chest, not to heal but to share. He felt grief, gratitude, promise. The ancient systems continued to rise beneath the city. And far beyond the sky, watchers who had slept for ages began to speak again, drawn by the choice of one broken human who refused to let go. The city above no longer burned the same way. Evan watched through the floating screens as firestorms slowed and then stopped. Energy fields shimmered across entire districts, bending explosions into harmless light. Enemy ships drifted without control, their weapons silent, their power gone. The ancient systems were fully awake now. The chamber vibrated softly, not with danger but with movement. Deep beneath the city, structures shifted and aligned, linking together like parts of a living body. Evan could feel it through the floor, through the air, through his chest. He leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. His body was failing. The loss of his arm, the blood, the shock, all pressed down on him at once now that the danger had eased. The alien girl stood at the center of the chamber. Her glow had changed again. It was no longer bright and strong, but steady and thin, like a flame close to burning out. Evan forced himself to step toward her. She looked up at him. For the first time he felt her voice clearly, not as images but as meaning. "You stayed." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Evan nodded. He wanted to say more, but his throat was tight. The ancient presence returned, filling the chamber. It felt closer now, more focused. The choice has been seen. The system opened more screens. Evan saw beyond the city. He saw space. Across the orbit, enemy fleets were frozen in place. Some ships powered down completely. Others turned away, retreating without firing another shot. But the screens did not stop there. They expanded outward, showing distant stars, other worlds. Other wars paused mid-motion. Messages spread faster than light, carrying one simple truth. Humanity had been judged again. Evan felt anger rise in him, sudden and sharp. Judged for what? The presence answered, for restraint, for sacrifice, for choosing one life when power was offered. Evan laughed weakly, a broken sound. He did not feel like a symbol. He felt tired. He felt empty. The girl staggered. Evan reached out and caught her before she fell. The presence spoke with something close to regret. The bridge cannot remain open without cost. Evan looked down at her. He understood at once. She was not just a key. She was the last. Her people had built the systems long ago. Over time, their species faded, destroyed by war and fear. She carried the final living link, the only one who could speak to the machines directly. Evan shook his head slowly. No, the presence did not argue. The girl placed her hand against his chest. Her light pulsed weakly. "You gave, now I give." The chamber brightened suddenly. Energy surged through the floor and walls, flowing not into the city but into her. Evan shouted her name, the first sound she had ever heard from him like that. She smiled. The glow left her body. She collapsed. Evan caught her and fell to his knees, holding her close. He felt her breathing, slow but steady. She was alive but empty, like a lamp with no light left. The presence spoke one last time. The bridge endures, but the voice was fading. The machines began to quiet. The lights dimmed. The systems locked themselves away again, leaving behind only the defenses they had raised. Outside, the war ended. Human ships arrived hours later, cautious and confused. Medical teams pulled Evan from the chamber. He faded in and out as they worked, hearing voices argue over what had happened and what it meant. Some called him a hero, others called him a fool. He woke days later in a clean white room. His body felt wrong. lighter on one side. He looked down and saw the smooth edge where his arm should have been, wrapped in clean fabric. A human officer stood near the bed. The officer spoke carefully, choosing each word. The city was saved. The enemy had retreated. The ancient systems had gone silent again. And the alien girl was alive, but everything had changed. Evan turned his head toward the window. Beyond it, the sky was clear for the first time since the bombing began. He did not smile. He wondered what price would come next. Time passed quietly after the war. The city was rebuilt piece by piece. Burned towers were taken down. New shelters rose where streets had once been torn apart. People returned slowly, carefully, as if afraid the sky might break again. Evan recovered in a medical wing far from the old battlefield. The pain faded day by day, replaced by a deep ache that never fully left. He learned to sit up again, then to walk, then to balance with a body that no longer felt complete. His missing arm was replaced with a simple mechanical one, smooth and gray. It worked well enough, but it felt cold, distant. It reminded him every moment of what had been lost. Visitors came often at first. Officers asked questions. Scientists watched him closely. Politicians spoke in careful voices, praising his actions while measuring their value. Evan answered when he had to. Most of the time he stayed quiet. He asked only one question. How is the girl? At first, no one gave him a clear answer. Then one day they brought him to her. She lay in a peaceful room filled with soft light. Machines monitored her breathing and heart, but she did not seem sick. She slept like a child who had finally reached safety. Her skin no longer glowed. Evan stood beside her bed for a long time. He spoke softly, telling her the city was safe, that the war was over, that she could rest. Her fingers twitched. Then her eyes opened. They met his. For a moment nothing happened. Then slowly a faint light returned to her skin. Weak but real, Evan felt his chest tighten. She did not speak with images this time. Instead, he felt a single clear feeling. Home. She stayed under care for many weeks. Her strength returned little by little. She could walk again. She could eat on her own. The light in her skin never returned fully, but it remained steady enough. The ancient systems did not awaken again. Some feared they would never respond. Others believed that was the point. Across human space, stories spread. Some were true, some were not. Evan's name was spoken in news halls and quiet homes. To some, he was a hero who had saved a city. To others, he was a man who had nearly handed unimaginable power to forces no one understood. Evan did not listen. When he was released from medical care, he did not return to command. He did not seek honors. He requested a quiet posting near the rebuilt city. They granted it. The girl stayed nearby as well, always under watch, but no longer treated as a weapon or a secret. She learned human words slowly. Evan helped her when he could, patient and gentle. One evening they stood together on a high platform overlooking the river. The water flowed clean again, reflecting new lights from the city. She looked up at him. "You held on." Evan nodded. She tilted her head. Why? He thought for a long time before answering. Because someone had to. She considered this. Far beyond the city, beyond human space, others were watching. The ancient watchers had not vanished. They had stepped back, silent, observing a species that had surprised them. Humanity had been offered power and had chosen restraint, had been tested by fear and had chosen compassion. That choice echoed. Years later, a new threat appeared at the edge of known space. It was not an invasion, not at first. It was a slow collapse, systems failing, worlds going dark. Calls for help spread. Human fleets prepared for war. But the ancient systems did not wake. Evan stood once more before a familiar sealed chamber, older now, quieter. The girl stood beside him, grown taller, stronger, her light steady but gentle. This time she was not alone. Humans and aliens stood together behind them. She placed her hand on the door. Evan placed his mechanical hand over hers. The door responded, not with power. With guidance, the systems did not rise to fight. They showed paths, solutions, ways to save without destroying. Shields instead of weapons, barriers instead of fire, the galaxy watched. Humanity did not take control. Humanity shared it. The crisis passed. When it was over, the ancient voice spoke one final time, heard only by those who stood at the center. You are not our heirs. You are our proof. Evan felt the weight of those words settle gently, not as judgment, but as release. He returned to the river platform one last time. The city below was alive, bright, full of voices from many worlds. The girl stood beside him, looking out at it all. He had lost an arm. He had lost the life he once knew. But something far greater had been saved. The sky remained whole. And for the first time in a long while, Evan believed it would stay that way.